that you join in and just get to see what is in store for you, and especially for you who are youth. I don't know why when we're talking about mental health we are largely focusing on the youth, but well, for obvious reasons. We understand the problems of transitioning and the confusion that sits therein as you try to figure out what you want to do in life, who you are in life, trying to figure out what it is that you are purposed to do. And so at this moment of confusion, one can stray, one can be mentally exhausted. And so having these conversations would be very, very important. The guest of honor will be His Excellency, that Pastor Dr. Dorcas, yes, His Excellency Pastor Dr. Dorcas Rigathi, who will be gracing the event as we have these conversations. And so to drum up for that, we'll be having a conversation this morning in relation to mental health. And I have two able ladies that will help us decipher on this, perhaps youthful as well, as you can evidently see, just to speak to you who is a girl out there, just to speak to you who is a young man out there in relation to mental health awareness. And so Alice Njambi, the conscious life coach, is here with us. I hope it's conscious.
Yes, it is.
So I don't get it wrong. As well as Mercy Wachira, who is a psychologist, Outspan Medical College, to speak to this matter. And ladies, I don't know, for the longest of time I've spoken about mental health, and I'm not trying to say that I'm exhausted, doing this, but perhaps I acknowledge the importance of these very conversations. But even in all these talks, why is it that we have, a rise in the cases of suicide, a rise in the cases of depression, rise in the cases of, very many of our youth getting into stressful aspects? And we ask ourselves, is it that we are not handling it right? Is it that we're not pressing the right buttons? Is it that we're not getting the conversations right? Perhaps to start with you, Alice.
Thank you so much. I think the major reason as to why we are seeing all these sudden rupture of all these kind of events, it's because we are dealing with the how do I put this, the COVID pandemic effect. What we saw during 2020 was direct effects of COVID. That was direct in terms of economy. We had job losses, we had cut-offs, we have businesses failing. We also had the physical illnesses and sadly very many deaths. That is what we dealt with. That is what we saw. We are now dealing with the, do I call it post effects or the indirect effects of COVID, which is we went through, such a period of anxiety, we didn't know, uncertainty, and we didn't have time to deal with that. So mental health issues were there before COVID, but I'd like to think COVID is what just blew the lid off the boiling pot, so to speak.
And Mercy, true to it, you as a psychologist, perhaps you've gotten a chance to encounter very many people who have difficulties in managing life as it stands right now, and then this is what would trigger unhealthy aspect of mental stability. And they would come to you, and sometimes you want to ask yourself, could this have been triggered by indeed COVID-19, or these cases were in existence, it's just that we were so blind to them? And if that is the case, then how different do we handle it, so that again we do not find ourselves in future dealing with the after effects of a condition or situations that have already been in existence, just that we were not so keen to notice them?
Okay. Actually, just to echo what Alice has said here, mental illnesses have always been there. It's not a new thing. It's been there. And the one thing that I would say has been ignored is the impact of mental health on everybody, on the economy, on health, on general health. It has been ignored for years. So right now with COVID-19, it exploded and showed us, by the way, this thing is serious. And that's why in 2020, the president, the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, decided to come up with a task force for mental health to go and find out what is this mental health thing, because there has been a lot of stigma surrounding mental health. Everybody things that somebody who goes to a counselor, like many a times you say, oh, by the way, I'm a counselor. Oh, my name is Mercy, I'm a counselor. Somebody's the, oh, so when you let daktari wa wenda wazimu, you know, that's stigma by itself, you know. So unajua venye nafikiria sahi, you know, something like that. So mental health has been stigmatized for long, since time immemorial. People who are mentally ill would be locked in houses. And because of that, we Kenyans, we've not really appreciated the fact that mental health really has an impact. So we suppressed all the emotions we had and all the difficulties we face in life, and we think they're normal. We think they're normal. And some things are not normal, you know? Like you lose your child and then next week you're at work. I mean, you need time.
Do we,
you know,
seem not to understand what is normal and what is abnormal?
Yes. We are like, sisi ni wa Kenya, si ni wale wase tunaweza vumilia.
Wanaume ni kuvumilia.
Wa Kenya ni kuvumilia, si ndio? Like we are hardcore, we are Kenyans, we get out of everything. But people are dying slowly inside, and they don't know where to get help. And then one day you hear a dad has offed his whole family. You hear a mom has offed her whole family and taken herself with them, you know. It's really sad. It's a really sad state. And of course, government backing needs to be very important, because up to 2020, we didn't have psychologists in public hospitals. COVID brought the cry, you know. I think, COVID brought the cry for mental health.
Well, many would look at it as though, you know, getting professional help is an expensive affair, and we'll come back to that shortly. But then, Alice, you know, in the formation or the thought of setting up this, you know, event that is set for the weekend and largely focusing on the youth. And I started by asking, well, today, when you talk about mental health, we have been concerned about the youth so much so. Is it because then initially we knew of the existence of mental health and that, well, it was looked at as a thing for the oldies, and perhaps because of the difficulties of life, then we thought, well, the oldies should just manage, they should survive somehow. And we overlooked the aspect that there are possibilities that even the youth could be going through this. Because it is absurd for a little girl to come and tell me that, hey, this is what I'm going through. Takuliza, sasa wewe unaanza kuwa na stress na hata haujaanza kulea, you know, you're still a young kid. Do you even know what life is? Do we tend to imagine that, well, maybe the youth really are not going through these things? They should not anyway.
Yeah, you're so right, because let me even give my own personal example. In 2017, I went through a divorce, and I was going through my own challenges. I was trying to cope with this new phase, what is going on. And when I was going through that, I really thought about, what about my kids? They're also going through, you know, anxiety issues. They're going through separation issues. And like you mentioned, if it's like work-related issues, I have stress at work, I go home, I'm expecting, I'm feeding you, I'm taking care of you, I'm clothing you, you guys shouldn't
be
have,
okay.
Shouldn't have any issues. Sometimes we don't even have time to sit down and just understand, so what is going on? Maybe my child could be, they're being bullied in school, but they have no one to speak to. And just to emphasize on the reason why we are having this Sikika Youth Fest, for the youth specifically. It's because, first of all, according to the KNBS census, 75% of the population in this country is under 35 years old. So we are talking about this country, Kenya, being a very huge population is the youth. And then there was also a research that was done, and I think up to 45% of these young people had clinically significant depressive symptoms. Like you're saying, things are happening. Our young people are going through challenges, but for one reason or the other, not because we don't want to help them, but maybe they don't have the avenues, they haven't been having the avenues to speak. And also as adults, we feel like we have all these things that we are doing that we are forgetting also these young people.
Yeah.
They just don't need the basic needs, the food, clothing, and shelter. They also need psychological and emotional support, which goes back to the fact that maybe some of us are not giving because we were never given. So we don't know how to give that. We know it's provide, make sure school fees is paid, Nini, you should be okay.
Yeah. All right, well, interesting. And let's talk about the youth and whether you've handled it different this time around, that now we realize that most of them are going through transitional troubles, you know, and I think it begins from the level of teens. You know, there's a lot of confusion as to what you need to do. Then there's a generational gap. Yesterday I was looking at a report that we're speaking about up until today of what the youth, the Gen Zs are concerned about. So your mom is worlds apart with you, you know, generation-wise, and how they get you to a space of, you know, just being sober and being okay is equally a point of confusion for them. So how different has it been? How, you know, open are the youth to this space of speaking out their mind and saying that there's a problem and we need help today?
Okay, actually, one thing I've realized about the youth, the Generation Z, is that they're very outspoken, most of them. They will come out and tell you, Mom, I'm not feeling okay today. But as she said, and you've said, Mom comes in and says, I'm feeding you, you know, I'm doing this for you. You should not be going through stuff. What are you missing? They don't want to, parents don't want to sit down and listen to their children, especially, leave alone teenagers. Even kids under the age of 4 are dealing with stress, you know. So you look at your child, you're wondering, what is a 4-year-old, I mean PP1, what is a 4-year-old getting stressed about? But if a parent is not taking keen care and observation towards that child, this child will go down. And this generation is quite vocal. I don't know, come on, CBC or it's media. But this
outright, they will tell you. Like,
these kids are quite very vocal, and they're telling you stuff. Like if you're doing something, they will tell you. But it's true, there's that generational gap, and as parents, we need to go back to them and try and find out what are their needs, what are they feeling, can we listen to them?
Are we well equipped as parents as well to understand their needs, to speak their language, because the confusion they're in as well?
Yeah, some parents could not be well equipped, but thank God to social media. And I believe many churches nowadays are doing parenting classes. You know, how to parent teens in this world, how to parent Generation Z. You know, take an effort, make an effort. But then again, how many parents can afford to enroll? How many have those smartphones to be able to see that there is this? They're engaged in social media to know that there are these things, you know. So again, now we take it back to us as counselors and mental health professionals to now run back to mashinani and find a way in which we can make parents aware that your child can actually experience mental problems. A small child can experience mental problems. Because there's a research I was reading about, it's a World Health Organization research, and it was a March 2023 research, and it was saying that worldwide, the highest number of suicides in the world, we had 280 million suicides in 2022. And with that, 40-something% were 15 to 20, though it was to 29. It was 15 to 29-year-olds. That's the youth, literally, a very huge percentage, surely. You know, so it is true there's a generation gap, and parents, we need to find a way to connect, But then sometimes it doesn't take you going for a seminar or anything. Sit down and listen to that child. If you can't, find somebody who can help you deal with that child, you know. And also something else I've also noticed while dealing with children, especially primary school children, is that our teachers need a bit of sensitization to understand what children are going through in this generation, you know. Because primary school teachers and teachers generally have authority over the students. So if teachers can take time and observe how children are reacting and not be that old school teacher, like us, we were scared of going to tell teacher I'm going through something because teacher ataenda ongea kwa the whole staff room, and then the teacher calls your parent says no, those things are not happening in our home, pap, you're being beaten. And for real, you're telling the truth, you know. So teachers need to find a way to also, to be sensitized actually. They need to be sensitized about understanding the needs of those kids completely. So I feel it's true there's a generational gap, but we as a society, we can find a way to actually bridge that gap by taking care of the kids in the society and listening to them.
And Alice, quite an outspoken generation, we have to admit, but equally a generation that chooses not to speak about their troubles, perhaps chooses other options to address the concerns that they have. Some will run to drugs, some will opt to just get immerse themselves into other things, you know. Some people will even tell you, I got into content creation because of the difficult times that I was going through. And perhaps it's a blessing, but this person has perhaps not healed internally, has not addressed the concerns. How do we get them to speak? Is it that we have not created a safe space where then they can come and gladly say, you know what, I think I can speak of my troubles right now, and I won't be judged, I won't be questioned, I will be helped to get solutions to my problems?
That's a beautiful question. And the thing is, like you've mentioned, this generation is not keeping quiet. Why? Because technology is a good thing, It's, I like looking at it as a double-edged sword. They're more exposed than we were. So there's this gap of they're feeling like we are not being understood. We are going through these issues, but our parents, our teachers, the people who are older than us, who are supposed to giving us a sense of direction and guidance, don't get us, don't understand us. So there are all these things going on. How do I sort it out? Because the person who I'm supposed to be going to won't get me. In fact, they'll just, I don't know, just wish out, And the thing about it is we need to have empathy as parents, because if we don't try and understand these young people, what will they do? Exactly what you're talking about. They look for coping mechanisms, substance abuse, a lot of sexual recklessness, drugs. You know, there's so many negative coping mechanisms. Why? Because there's this blank space of, okay, I am here, I'm going through this, and I don't know how to go about it. And that's why we are having this Youth Fest. Why? Because we want to offer spaces where there's, how do I call it, psychological safety, where we are saying it is okay, let's have this conversation. In fact, in line with the fest, the theme is tubonge tusifiche. So we are saying, let's open up. We are coming from a point of empathy. We want to do 3 things. And as human beings, sometimes we may not even be able to, the best way to connect with people, is these young people want to be heard, they want to be listened to, and they want to be understood. They don't even want us to agree with them, And that's the thing about empathy. We think, we think empathy is saying, by the way, you're right, and I agree with you. It could be, I want to hear you. I want to understand you. I'm not coming from a point of, I know, but I want to get to know what you're going through, and let's work it out together.
All right, and before I loop you in, you speak of, you know, psychological safe spaces and, you know, conversations that, you know, are started through such initiatives. But just how much work do we put towards making these conversations consistent? That, you know, after 2 days of, what do we call this event? After 2 days of the event, Skika, After 2 days, then there's going to be a follow-up program. Then there's going to be consistency in terms of these people. And I know the most sure way of consistency is to have them involve themselves, with speaking to psychologists and everything. But beyond that, what do we do? Because we get excited with these events. I'll tell you, I have personally hosted lots of events. I have gone to schools, spoken to these kids, but then what do you leave them thereafter? What is the guarantee that you're going to come back and follow up and know that they are in the right path?
Super. So as you've mentioned, this is just the beginning. Like, there's usually a lot of hypes for events and we're excited and we're motivated. And then 2 days later, we're back to doing things the way that we were doing. So the whole idea is not to just have an event and a one-time conversation, but rather this is the beginning of such conversations, and not just conversations. We are looking at getting mentors for these young people. We are looking at exposing them in terms of talent search, because these young people have a lot. And thank goodness for technology. There are so many other spaces apart from the white collar jobs that we were all aspiring to have. Thank God with this generation, there are so many opportunities and they're brilliant young people. So how do we continue these conversations? How do we work with these young people to just harness this talent, to guide them to just become the best version of themselves. Yes, so this is just not a one-off thing, but just the beginning of a very wonderful place. Let me put it that way. Yeah.
All right, like I say, Mercy, reality is that the existence of psychologists, mentors, life coaches, is very, very important. You people play a huge role in terms of making sure that we have a stable society, mentally for that matter. And so one sure way of continuing these conversations so that they are constant, so that we are consistent, is through people like you. But then again, most of the youth will tell you, man, it's an expensive affair. And not just the youth, but generally, even us who are grown-ups, you really just want to go out there and speak to someone who doesn't know you, and you pour out all your troubles, and on a professional view, they listen to you and they help you through, they help you walk through this journey. How do we cut this gap that exists in terms of finances, in terms of access, such that we make it easy for them to say, now I can march into a counselor's office and I know I don't have to part way with so much money and I'll get help.
Okay, thank you very much. It's true that the cost of mental health is actually high in Kenya. That's a fact. A session in Nairobi can go for 1,500. I think that's actually me being very, I don't know. But still, it's between 1,500 and 7,000.
Perhaps you need 3 sessions a week, maybe 2.
Exactly. And that is one session. 1,500 to 7,000, a single session. And you need 3. Actually, minimum we say it's 10, for you to be okay. We say a minimum of 10 sessions. So you have to part with around 70,000 for you to, get 15,000. But how many people in this current economy can be able to afford that? So over the years, I have seen that, mental health has really evolved, especially after COVID. There are people who offer online sessions. Insurance companies have started paying for mental health services. Others, they never used to do that. Very few were taking up that. But insurance companies have started paying for that. If only NHIF can also get on board and not let only civil servants be able to access mental health services through their card. I wish everybody could, mpaka mama mboga can know, I'll be paying that 500 bob a month, and I can get mental health services for my child who's under me, for the youth who's under me, So here I think it's mostly a government initiative. It should be a government initiative where they hire more counselors in hospitals, because currently in a hospital like Moranga, Nyeri PGH, they charge 200 bob per session. That's very subsidized. At Outspan Hospital, we charge 1,000 bob per session. Which is quite subsidized considering everybody else charges very expensive. And we also take insurance. So at the end of the day, this should be a government initiative as opposed to individual counselor initiative, because I as Mercy, who went to school, I also need to be paid.
Yeah.
You know, I can do pro bono, which, by the way, we do a lot. Many people don't want to pay for mental health services.
Right.
You know, many people don't want to pay for them. Hata ukiambia mtu, you know, just pay for the office space, 500 bob. That's too much money.
Right.
You know, and this is apparent. You know, this is apparent who you can see is working. I'm telling that just pay for office space. That's too much money, you know. So at the end of the day, it's the value that people put on their mental health.
Yes.
So we still need to continue doing what she's doing. MKU is doing, sensitizing, you know, the people about the value of mental health.
And I'm glad that you bring that up, because then we want to understand at what point do we start seeking for sessions, you know, of mental health? At what point do we listen to this? Someone will tell you, well, I gauge myself and I think I'm okay. Why do I need to attend the event? You know, somebody else will tell you, well, I think I'm not okay. Maybe let me just attend the event. Perhaps I could get help. So at what point do we begin, you know, involving ourselves at a personal level in these conversations of health, mental health, after this break?
Okay.
In acknowledging just how important it is for us to have conversations in relation to, mental health awareness, there will be an event that will be held at the Mount Kenya University Thika main campus, that is at the Mwai Kibaki Convention Center, on the 2nd of June, and as well running into the 3rd. It is called the Sikika Youth Fest. This in relation to conversations about mental health organized by the Conscious Work Consults alongside TV47 and Radio 47, an event that will be graced by Her Excellency, that is Pastor Dr. Dorcas Rigathi, who's the spouse of the Deputy President. And we all also know just how huge she's been in the conversation of involving the youth and largely the boy child, just to make sure that they are in the best of shape. We acknowledge that we have a problem as a country, and perhaps this is a problem that is global, but then in our own special ways, in our own local ways, how are we joining hands to handle the concerns of mental health that we have in the country? The numerous cases of suicide, the numerous cases of murder, crimes of passion, get us wondering just where is it that we went wrong and what needs to be done, to reverse this. And so here we are, we do not relent, we keep having the conversations, and of course we're delighted to have Mercy as well as Alice joining us for this very conversation on mental health awareness. So Mercy, I'll take this to you, and I think before we join you, we loop you in, we tend to just overlook this if we sort of gauge ourselves and feel like we are okay. Or maybe Alice should start first. Just who is eligible to joining this conversation, to joining this event? Because like we say, if you feel like you're okay, then you're thinking, why should I waste my Friday, to join this event, as opposed to perhaps travel home and visit mom? And in this case, I'm referring to the students who say are in Mount Kenya University. So who is eligible to join into this conversation?
That's a good question. And the short answer would be everyone who has a mind. Because what that means is if you have a mind, then you're susceptible to mental health issues, mental health conditions. And like you mentioned, most of the time we are not even aware. And that's why we're having these conversations. There's a lack of awareness. I could be going through stuff. We have normalized mwanaume ni kuvumilia, itapita, or we have all sorts of, phrases, and then we don't know what we are dealing with. Or we go looking for other coping mechanisms. Sometimes we use even church. I could be having issues, just family issues, or maybe dealing with friends, or for young people, academic pressure. But nashindanga kanisa, or nashindanga club, or other, maybe not even positive mechanisms. So who is eligible? Every single person. And the best part is we are having the same being streamed online. So the ones who wouldn't be able to attend physically can get to actually attend the fest online. So every single young person is welcome.
Is welcome to.
Yeah.
Yes. So at what point do we start having these conversations? It is during this COVID-19 time that I have had the most conversations around mental health. Perhaps to allude to the fact that we are a reactionary society. How do we get ourselves to a space where we can say now, these are conversations that we're supposed to have. It doesn't matter the time, it doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter whether you're okay or you're not. They are conversations that we constantly have.
What I think, my thoughts on that is that whenever you're not feeling okay at all, like you feel an inkling of sadness, sit down, reflect. It is the responsibility of everybody to take care of their mental health. It is my responsibility to take care of my mental health. Your mental health, your mental health. It is your responsibility to take care of your own mental health. And therefore, anytime you feel you're not okay, reach out to somebody, talk to someone. Just try to, because talking helps. Actually, what we do mostly in counseling, it's listen to you and guide you through various skills and techniques to get you to a point where you yourself are able to make your own decision. Because as a counselor, we believe that the solution lies with you. It doesn't lie with me, the counselor, because I don't know you. You know yourself much, much better. So it is my responsibility to take care of my mental health. So acknowledge the fact that you're not okay. Because many people don't even acknowledge that I had a bad life when I was growing up. So many people are sitting on childhood trauma, which comes up as funny behavior. And you're like, mi wa hivo. Ama people have labeled you, unakuanga hivo.
Yeah.
So you go on with life that nakuanga hivo, such that now you've come to believe that I'm like that and you can't change, until now it gets to the worst of worst, where now you're crying all the time, you're feeling suicidal, you're feeling homicidal, and you're like, that's life, you know? But at the end of the day, whenever you're not feeling okay, whenever you're not, reach out. Take that initiative to reach out to a friend, you know, and there are even some other things you can do. There's people who are scared of talking to people. So you can write what you're feeling, look at it, think about it, and then burn the paper, you know. There are many ways in which you can literally deal with the pressures of life.
What are some of the things to spot or to notice, you know, on the other side of the coin and say, you know, I think so-and-so is not okay. I think so-and-so would require help in as much as they don't want to come out.
Some of the symptoms you can look for to notice somebody is going through a mental health issue. If you know the person, for people who know that person, there is a dramatic shift in their behavior and even their emotions, you know. Like, for example, a child who was performing very well is no longer performing. A son who used to come, sit, watch TV, now sticks to their room, you know. A friend who used to be hyper or less hyper is now more hyper. Or, you know, they are behaving out of sorts, out of their kawaida way of behaving, you know. So they're looking either too happy. Some people, they express mental stress by being excessively happy. There's also the issue of weight. There is either you add too much weight all of a sudden or you lose too much weight all of a sudden. There is also eating. You either feel too hungry or you feel you're always full, so you don't eat. Yeah. So there are those things you can pinpoint, especially if you know that person, because you understand their behavior. And of course, somebody, you can tell with the facial expression, you know, is the person looking overly sad? Is the person irritable? You know, like, for example, you ask somebody, hey, like Alice, hi Alice, and then she's like, what is your problem? You know, so I'm like, oh, Alice, are you okay? You know, so I will notice something is wrong with Alice, you know. So you look at the symptoms, you just look at the physiological, emotional, and behavioral symptoms. Those ones, they will always tell you what is up with that person, especially if you know them.
All right. Sikika Youth Fest. What are we looking at? What are we expecting? What should this youth come, you know, expecting and excited about?
I'm so excited about this. We are looking forward to a fun event and full of amazing, positive mental health conversations that are student-driven. Just in line with the name Sikika, it is their event, the young people's event. And it's for them, this is a platform for them to be heard, to be listened to, and to be understood. So we have, it's a 2-day event. The first day event, as you were mentioning, we have the chief guest as Her Excellency, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi. And we are so looking forward to that conversation with her. Why? Because she is very inspiring, and like you mentioned, she has a soft space, a soft spot for the youth and the boy child. And so we're very excited about that. We'll be having panel discussions. So we are calling all young people to come and attend the event. It will be full of 2 things, education and entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah, they won't leave the same way they came in.
All right. Well, of course, make sure that you take advantage of that. Free of charge?
Yes, it is. I should have mentioned that. Yes, it is. Karibuni wote.
Timings, you know?
We start on Friday. We start at 8 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
Yes.
All day, the whole day.
Yes.
All right, goes the whole day.
Yes.
And Saturday?
And Saturday we start around 10.
Ah, all right.
Yes.
Fair enough. So, what would be your parting shot? What is this one thing that you would tell the society about, first of all, the importance of seeking professional help. Because, like you say, this is one thing that we tend to overlook. But perhaps that is the safest and the best space that, you know, you can be guaranteed of going there, you know, zero stigma, zero, you know, judgments, but at least you're guaranteed of coming out of that space with a solution.
Okay, thank you. For me, my parting shot is afya yako, juhudi lako. And we as a society and you as a human being with the mind, it is important to notice that at some point in your life you'll experience a challenge. And it is important to realize that I can't handle this alone. And that is where mental health professionals come in. You know, that's where we come in. We come to help you notice and reinforce the skills you already have to be able to cope effectively with future problems, so that it does not escalate to even physiological problems. Because we know stress, excessive exposure to stress and constant exposure to stress can lead to depression. Depression is a mood disorder that is characterized by suicidal ideations and general unhappiness and lack of hope in the future. So if we can cut you from getting to that point of where you feel life is worthless, and just deprive of Kenya your presence and even the presence of your children or your family, there is something we can do about it. And you need to know you can do something about it. If you can plan to buy a new wedding dress to go to a wedding, you can literally, plan to have your mental health taken care of, And of course, we have quacks also out there. So you just don't go to anybody. Not everybody is a professional. So you can go through the Kenya Counselors and Psychologists Association website to see who are qualified counselors, to see who's a qualified counselor, and try and find a connection, because there are counselors who offer free services, pro bono services, and you can be helped, So tap into any mental health event that you hear. Go and get help there, go and listen. And I know even for churches, many churches, they do a health week. That week they also touch on mental health. Tap into that resource. Tap into any mental health resource that you see. Go to government hospitals. Currently, they also have mental health services if you can't afford it. So many hospitals currently are hiring, have mental health services. So tap into that. Young people use your student counselor in school. Many student counselors just stay in school and they feel unused.
Really good,
They feel unused. Young people don't go to them.
And you don't have to wait until you're not okay.
Yes, you don't have to wait. By the way, mental health, you don't have to wait until you're not okay. It is called self-care. You need to take care of yourself. You need to look at aspects. Go and listen to, just go and talk to a counselor. Just one session. Go talk to a counselor and see if there could be something you can work on, a way of reinforcing. We do personal development sessions where you are helped. At Outspan Hospital, we do that. Come for personal development sessions, and you grow and you learn how to cope, literally.
Oh, thanks so much. Your parting shots.
My parting shot would be in line with this mental health awareness forum for the youth. Sikika, tubonge, tusifiche. Why? Because most of us are struggling and we are hiding it. We come up wearing social masks. I'm okay. But I'm not really okay. But when I come in and I see you and I see Mercy and we're all looking fine, I'm afraid of speaking up. I'm afraid of sharing. So please, tubonge, tusifiche. Let's come out. Let's have these conversations. Let's break the stigma.
That's true. Let's speak out. Ladies, thank you so much for continuing this conversation. I know sometimes it might sound difficult. It might sound like more repetition, but it is worth the cost. Yes, last speaker, Alice Njambi, the Conscious Life Coach. Thank you so much for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you.
Mercy Wachira,